Jason Paul. This is a story of my testimony, the day of my salvation, how Jesus Christ saved my life. It was 1998, the summer. I think it probably was around June, maybe July. I can't tell, can't remember. It's been so long ago. I was coming up Victorville, California on the 15 freeway. It's a little town in between San Bernardino and Las Vegas. If anybody knows where it's at, I was coming off the D Street exit in Victorville, California, and I'm on a motorcycle. I believe it was a Honda 750 GS 1982, and I entered the on-ramp at about 90 miles per hour. I remember looking off to the sunset. It was orange, amber waves of light. It was a kamikaze sunset with the wind bars going through the clouds. I remember looking off to the sunset and thinking to myself how beautiful it was. I entered onto the on-ramp, and I was entering at a high rate of speed, and I remember merging into traffic. I crossed 2 lanes. I thought to myself, what a beautiful day this is. And I looked off into the sunset, and then I looked back. And, it must have been Las Vegas traffic on a Sunday. Just coming back because all 4 lanes were almost all the way full. And right then, my tire blew out. Back tire on my motorcycle blew out, and at 90 miles per hour, that tire shredded off and was coming at me quite furiously. I felt like I was being whipped, like I was Jesus on the cross. I was getting lashed over and over and over and over, time after time. The pain was unbearable at 90 miles per hour. I remember thinking to myself, is this what Jesus feels like when he's beaten on the cross? It lasted probably for about 10 seconds, but in my own mind it probably felt like it was about 3 or 4 minutes or an hour. I can't explain it, the way the feeling was. I was being beaten into submission pretty much. And the bike started going into a crazy speed wobble. Like, I remember thinking to myself, oh God, this is it. Here it is. And I looked back. I seen a big rig behind me. There was 3 cars in the lanes next to the big rig, so pretty much it was a full set of traffic. And all I could hear is horns honking. And the back tire shredded off. And I didn't have much of a choice. You know, when you're on a bike and speed wobbling with such a high rate of speed, you can't control it. And it felt like my wrists were going to break. I had no strength left in me. I looked off to the sunset, and I had to make a decision right then. Either I hold on and crash and go tumbling and then get ran over by all the traffic that was behind me, or I could lay the bike down. And so I decided to lay the bike down. And when I laid it down, it started to go down, and it was uncontrollable. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, God, this is gonna hurt. It's gonna really, really hurt. And right then, I remember saying in my head, Lord, you know, if you'll save me from this, I'll follow you. And I remember thinking to myself, this is it. It's over. And I prayed. I remember praying as I laid the bike down. Now, when you lay a bike down at that speed, you know the back wheel's all metal. It's all steel at that point because the tire had flown it off, and so it's sparking. And I'm pretty much kind of riding it out like you'd ride a surfboard. And there's no explanation for this. There's no scientific explanation for what was about to happen to me. But what I can tell you is if you believe like I believe, and I've always believed, and you believe in Christ, He'll save you. And that day I believed. And the bike came up off the back tire and onto the front tire, and literally like a unicycle, I came up off the ground. So I'm like this, right? And then I come up off the ground and up onto one wheel, and it was almost so soft that it was like a feather, up on one wheel, and I was guided off to the side of the road. And I remember thinking to myself, oh God, there's there's no way this could have happened. And I thank you. I thank you for being my friend. I thank you for saving me. And when he guided me off to the side of the road, I took off my helmet. I threw it as far as I could throw it. As far as I could throw it. And I remember watching the helmet go and rolling down the side of the road, and the only thing I could think is I was glad that that wasn't my head. It was such an amazing sight that the traffic behind me, as they drove by, was honking their horns and screaming out the window, yeah, yeah, yeah. I could hear the shouts, and I remember falling to my knees. I fell to my knees and I got down on the ground, and I smelt the air. I could smell like the smell of the desert sand. And I remember looking down, and I kissed the asphalt. I got down on my knees and I put my head to the asphalt and I kissed the ground. And I thank God that I was still here. And I praised Him. And I let Him know that I loved Him. And there's no scientific explanation for how a motorcycle that could go from on its side up onto one wheel, the front wheel, and unicycle off to the side of the road. There's no explanation for this. And I can tell you that it happened to me. And I knew that day there was a God. And He was my friend. And this is just one account of my life that He saved my life. And I'm not one of the easiest guys out there. I'm probably one of the hardest guys out there. But He chose to save my life because I chose to believe. And if I can tell you any one thing in this world, that if you dig deep down inside your heart, and you reach in the very bottom of your soul, and you believe with all of your heart, and you love, He will be there. This is my testimony. My name is Jason Paul. Thank you for your time tonight.